Greetings. Today we are going to talk about jewelry stones with a frightening and fascinating history. And even if you don't particularly believe in these stories, you may wonder whether you should joke with fate. One such stone is the Hope Diamond. Its history is quite impressive, but it seemed to jeweler Pierre Cartier in 1910 that its size of 52 carats was a much more significant detail than some curses, and a buyer would definitely be found. In general, it happened, but the jeweler had to try and even use trickery to sell this beauty from his hands. The origins of the Hope Diamond lie somewhere in hot India. Today it is believed that the stone is only a part of a huge 115-carat blue diamond. It was brought to the court of the French king by a famous merchant of such curiosities named Tavernier. Local jewelers divided the diamond into several smaller ones. For example, one of them is now in the Diamond Fund of Russia, and before that it was in the ring of Empress Maria Fyodorovna. It is known that the stone number 2 had a mass of 69 carats, and under the name of the Blue Frenchman for a long time was in the possession of the French kings, but after the revolution disappeared. Hope's diamond first appeared in the middle of the 19th century, and it was called so by the surname of the owner. But very soon experts noticed that it literally repeats the characteristics of the Blue Frenchman in everything except the cut. As a result, the stone sharply gained fame, and in company with it the notoriety of the French crown jewel. After all, the Blue Frenchman was believed to bring misfortune to its owners, and now Hope's diamond had taken over the baton. So why did the stone have a bad reputation? There is a legend that a beautiful diamond adorned the statue of the goddess Sita. One day a thief tried to steal it, but was struck by lightning. Somehow, however, the stone ended up in Tavernier's possession and traveled to France. However, Tavernier's life after his encounter with it turned out badly. He lost all his money, after which he decided to flee to Russia, where he died of cold. And then the diamond began to mow the French monarchy and those close to it. For example, the favorite of Louis IV, the famous Madame de Montespan, once asked for it as a gift. Not a year later, as she lost the favor of the king, ended up in a convent, where she died. Louis himself did not believe in the curse, but preferred not to touch the stone. Until one day he decided to demonstrate to the Shah of Persia that there was nothing terrible about the Blue Frenchman. The demonstration was successful. The king did not live to the end of the year. This is where the curse was seriously discussed and the stone was locked in a chest. Marie Antoinette, the wife of Louis XVI, took it out of there, began to wear the jewel. In addition, a couple of times gave it to try on her girlfriend Princess Lambolskaya. The result is known to all. The royal couple ended their journey on the guillotine, and the princess was torn apart by an angry crowd. Cartier, as already mentioned, bought the Hope Diamond in 1910. He believed that the main concept of his jewelry brand was the sale of large jewels, and the stone fit into this concept as well as possible. But this approach was always associated with great financial risks. After all, huge sums of money were invested in the stones, and they could be returned only by finding a buyer. Thus, Hope's diamond cost an astronomical amount of 500,000 francs for those times. Today it is more than $2 million. But Cartier believed he could do it. The jeweler chose a young American woman, Evelyn Walsh McLean, to play the role of the buyer. This heiress of the owner of the largest gold mines in America and the wife of Washington Post owner Ned McLean had millions in abundance. And the girl was also crazy about jewelry, could afford almost everything, and fanatically chose the most luxurious jewelry. It was Evelyn during her and her husband's visit to Paris Cartier and offered to buy a diamond Hope. He believed that the girl in no case cannot resist him, and no bad reputation of the stone cannot deter her. Or perhaps, on the contrary, it would attract her. However, the miracle did not happen, and Evelyn, although delighted, preferred to keep the purse closed. However, Cartier decided not to give up. He ordered a new setting for the stone, encrusted with smaller diamonds, which very favorably emphasized the beauty of Hope's diamond. But Evelyn again resisted. And then Cartier used the last trick. He offered the girl to take the stone for a few days to himself. The jeweler understood perfectly well that at such an arrangement the rich girl, who from birth was accustomed to receive anythings, but not to part with them in any way, would definitely not resist. And the bet turned out to be right. Very soon the parties signed an agreement on the purchase of the stone. Its value, translated into modern money, amounted to more than $5 million. It seemed to be a great profit, but in fact Cartier with Hope's diamond practically went into the minus. Ahead were numerous legal proceedings with Evelyn, who suddenly decided that she wanted to cancel the deal, very expensive legal advice. As a result, the firm Cartier abandoned the idea of working exclusively with large stones and began to take their acquisition more seriously. And what about Evelyn? She always laughed at the curse of the Hope diamond. Meanwhile, it very much seemed to be laughing at her. Her husband ran off with his mistress, his newspaper went bankrupt, and he himself later died in a mental institution. Her daughter died of a drug overdose, and her son was killed in a car accident. Evelyn was facing ruin and the need to sell her precious jewelry for nothing to survive. After Evelyn's death, the owner of the diamond became Harry Winston, one of the world's most famous jewelers, who was called the King of Diamonds. It's hard to say what it was that prompted him to do this, but in 1958, Winston gave the Hope diamond to the Smithsonian Institution, where it is still on display today. Perhaps this step interrupted the chain of curses of the stone, because Harry Winston himself died at the age of 82, remaining a rich and quite happy father of two equally rich and happy children. That's such an interesting story. Thank you for watching.